Oh, he's on. Okay. Last text I got said he couldn't, but now I guess you got it. You got in. Bill, you're joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Sorry.
We got Bill. We got Bill Bender from Sporting News. He's you see us. We share bowl projections all the time, every week. Bill does them as well as anybody, and he stays very on top of what we do here at the Cheez-It Bowl and the other Cheez-It Bowl with the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Bill, as you look at the results this weekend, is there a game that caused particular havoc on your bowl projections? Looking ahead to filling out your sheet this week.
Well, I mean, of course, you just had Coach Beamer on, it looks like, and the South Carolina, Tennessee kind of changed the order of the SEC. It probably made it really tough for Tennessee to get in the playoff, obviously, and then you slide teams down a line, and then you wonder how that's going to impact that cluster of bowls that includes the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl there, along with the Big Ten, where Michigan State's fighting for a bowl game there, and right now they're one team short. So if the Big Ten, depending on what happens with Penn State this weekend, whether or not they become a New Year's Day 6 team, and the other one that shook things up obviously was the way that Ole Miss got beat by Arkansas in a lot of ways. I mean, that shakes up those SEC teams that aren't going to play for a New Year's Day 6 bowl.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, I know everybody goes into it a little bit different in how they approach bowl projections. What is your, you don't need to give away trade secrets, but what's your strategy as you fill out and kind of continually are updating these projections throughout the year?
I like to joke that they're always 100% accurate, because that you get in there, and then the one thing you don't want to do is put the same team in there twice in your spreadsheet. And I'm going to be honest, I've had that happen a couple times, and then somebody on Twitter will be like, why is Iowa in 2 bowl games? And then I'm like, well, because I messed up. But no, we definitely, I have a spreadsheet. You try to go through a methodology. Everybody has their own kind of process. I do it every Sunday morning, go through the standings, try to, figure out where these teams are going to be. And as you know, I mean, once the bowls are selected, there is some unpredictability to it. Sometimes, I remember one year there was 2 teams from the Mountain West Conference playing in the same bowl game. So you can't beat yourself up when that happens, but definitely take it seriously and try to get as many right as I can.
And do you get a lot of feedback, do you find, from fans in your mentions and in the comments and in your inbox? People seem to be very passionate about bowl projections, for better or worse.
Always. And it surprises me sometimes if so you put so-and-so in the Camellia Bowl. I'm a MAC graduate, so I definitely take the group of 5 side very seriously, because you want, if a team like Ohio University, where I went to school, I kind of play around with where they're going to be. I believe right now I have them in the Quick Lane Bowl, and they've got a chance to win the MAC championship. But you definitely have to keep track of all of those conferences. And this is the hard part as we get into the last 2 weeks, honestly, is you have to make sure that everybody that is eligible gets in. And we have been in a situation where 5 and 7 teams have got in bowl games. And, you look at, like, this week, for example, Rice is a team that needs to win to get in. I mentioned Michigan State. They need to win to get in. Even Missouri, who has a tough matchup in the SEC. And that can impact some of the lower tier bowls in the SEC if Missouri doesn't get into a bowl game. Or maybe Vanderbilt. I mean, I know they're 2 touchdown underdogs against Tennessee, but, will they be able to get to 6-6 now that Hendon Hooker's injured? That's one of those things you keep an eye on.
And when you look at our games specifically down here in Orlando, I think that we had started the season. I want to say Bill's original preseason projection was a Tennessee appearance here in Citrus Bowl. It's Tennessee and Wisconsin, I think. One team's season went better than they thought it would, and the other didn't. Went the opposite direction. But how do you feel about the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl now, based on this latest round of results? Do you have any updates to your? I think your last projection was. I'm losing it off the top of my head. I have it on a slide.
I got it. Yeah, you're good. We'll have our projections up this morning. We do ours every Monday morning, and right now the current projection will be Penn State and Ole Miss. Ole Miss, important game in the Egg Bowl, though, right? Because if the New Year's Day 6 takes 4 SEC teams, it would be, at this point, it would be Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and Tennessee. If Penn State slides up and one of those SEC teams slides down, you could see Tennessee or LSU in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. And if Penn State slides up, you'd probably see whoever wins the Big Ten West, which if you're asking me to pick that division, I know there's only 1 week left, but that's been impossible to figure out all season with how those, I think Iowa's got a really good chance to go to Indianapolis now.
And you mentioned Michigan State's obviously a team that's playing for bowl eligibility, and they're playing at Penn State this weekend, so they'll certainly be motivated to play well there. You know, when we look over at the Cheez-It Bowl, Big 12 ACC matchup, what's your crystal ball say there most recently?
Yeah, I mean, we looked into that one too, and a couple losses affected that one. Right now, you know, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma would probably be candidates from the Big 12 or Texas, but I think Texas will probably slide up to the Alamo Bowl, especially if TCU makes the playoff, because Kansas State also becomes a very attractive New Year's Day 6 candidate given what they've done. So I think you're looking at one of the Oklahoma schools in that regard. And then the other one's interesting to me. North Carolina had a stunning loss this weekend, and this is how far you can go up or fall and those kind of things. I think they're a very good candidate to play in that game. And if you got NC State or North Carolina and Oklahoma State in that game, for example, you'd have Spencer Sanders, you'd have Drake May. There's no doubt I'd be watching because of the quarter. But I don't know if that goes into, I don't think it goes into the process, but when a bowl game gets 2 quarterbacks like that put up huge numbers, you got to be happy because they those guys can put up those big numbers.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's always good to have an exciting matchup on the field. We've also seen exciting matchups in that bowl where neither team had a quarterback at all, but they still ran for 800 yards or whatever. So we see all kinds of fun in that game, and we appreciate that you put the effort in and take the time to really analyze these standings week in and week out and make the projections. I know it's not easy. Do you have one big upset that you're picking for this week that you think is just going to screw everything up again?
Well, I'm going through the picks now, and I'll be at Ohio State, Michigan. I don't know that there's an upset there, but anytime you got those 2 teams, and I grew up in Central Ohio, so I grew up around this rivalry, had family on both sides of the rivalry, and it's just a fun week. So, I don't see a major upset. One game I definitely would have a close eye on is Notre Dame USC. I mean, Notre Dame, you look at them, they had the inconsistent losses to Stanford and Marshall, but they're 3-1 against ranked teams, and they gave Ohio State basically their toughest game in week 1. So that game between the Trojans, 2 first-year coaches, possible Heisman candidate, and Caleb Williams, going to be a lot of fun when those 2 hook up out at the Coliseum. I'm looking forward to getting home from what will be a cold Ohio State-Michigan game. By the time I get home, that game will probably be on. It'll be awesome.
Well, it should be warm down here for the Cheez-It Bowl and the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl if you find yourself looking for somewhere to go between Christmas and New Year's. I know we have, I'll let you go with a University of Ohio question. You guys play tomorrow night, which is still weird, but Maction is Maction. How are you feeling about Bowling Green, and are we going to improve to 9-3, or how are you feeling about the future of Ohio football?
Well, I don't know if your panel is real up on this, but Ohio has not won a MAC championship since 1968. And they've had very good chances. Like when Jim Grobe was there, they had some good teams. That's when I was in school. And then Frank Solich obviously did a wonderful job. Jim Grobe now on the college football playoff committee. I text him from time to time. So I think they get it done this week. I think they get to the MAC championship game. It's been a Tuesday night tradition for me to watch the college football playoff rankings. And then I kind of got one eye on the TV here while I'm supposed to be, working, and I'm watching OU the last couple of weeks. And we do call it OU down there. So if there's any Oklahoma grads in here, I'm sorry, but in Ohio, it will always be OU to me.
Well, we love it. I wore my green hat for you today. We're going to be rooting you on, or I'll be rooting you on anyway on Tuesday night. And thank you again for your weekly projections, for being so accessible, and for joining us this morning.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on.